Ladies and gentlemen, this is Killer Kross. Please do not notify the police. Your signal has been interrupted. You are now listening to Rock and Wrestling Local 420. Tuck your chin, please, sir. Thank you.
Wow, what a fantastic gift. I realize the title of your show, Rock and Wrestling Local 420. And I'm going to take that idea and go extreme.
Alrighty then. This is Bill Nershi of the String Cheese Incident coming to you from up in the Windy Mountain. I'm here joining Cosmic Chris on the Rock and Wrestling Local 420.
This is the big ugly JD Bishop, and if you're not listening to Rock and Wrestling Local 420, you must be stupid.
Hey there, radio buddies. It's me, Max Volume. You are listening to Rock and Wrestling and Local 420 with Cosmic Chris.
Hey, this is Chad of the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling Podcast. When you're done listening to my show, head on over and listen to the Rock and Wrestling Local 420, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Hey, folks, I got a name for you. One of your greatest podcasts in podcast alive today. They don't call you a great podcast. They call you Rock and Wrestling in Local 420. Beat it if you can.
Here is Cosmic Chris, the hippie pimp, a.k.a. HP Puffin' Tough, hosting the greatest podcast of all time, Rock and Wrestling Local 420. Hey, this is Cosmic Chris, the hippie pimp, a.k.a. HP Puffin' Tough, coming to you from my living room and recording my podcast. I am in stitches right now because I just listened to the latest interview with Ted Nugent with some guy from Rolling Stone, and you know, the thing is I've always had a lot of respect for Ted Nugent. You know, I disagree with a lot of his politics and a lot of stupid shit that he says, in my opinion. You know, but the fact that, you know, he's been around so long and, you know, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I definitely believe he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, he's said some stuff over the years that I don't necessarily agree with. You know, when Fish supposedly did their last concert at Coventry, Vermont, God, it must have been 12, 13 years ago. No, 13, 14 years ago, something like that. I hiked 15 miles to see Fish through all that stuff. That was the only time I've really ever been to the East Coast. But they had this Relics magazine interview or something like that, and he was saying, you know, he had a lot of respect for Fish and all this stuff. And I love Fish, but you know, he had also referred to Jerry Garcia as a lazy lump of shit, which I think is the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. Because in my opinion, you know, and I love Ted Nugent, don't get me wrong, but Ted Nugent can't hold a candle to Jerry Garcia. Jerry Garcia was the James Brown of, you know, psychedelic jam, rock and roll music. You never saw Jerry Garcia without a guitar, usually. He's always doing something. If he wasn't with the Grateful Dead, he was with the JGB. If he wasn't with the JGB, he was with Grisman. If he wasn't with Grisman, he was with Merle. You know, it goes on and on and on. you know, and his love of music is just inspiring. And, you know, the reason I'm going off on this is because I'm a deadhead. You know, I love a lot of forms of music. I'm hugely a fan of heavy metal music. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts and, you know, a lot of, you know, different types of music, you know. I love Slayer, Garth Brooks, Johnny Cash, you know, Pavarotti, you know, the list goes on and on. But, you know, I'd listened to this interview that Ted did, and he had said something about that, you know, he wasn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame basically because of his being on the board of directors of the NRA. Now, if that's true, I don't know, you know, if this guy that hates him because he's on the board of directors of the NRA. I just think that that's a load of shit if that's the reason. Not saying that it's a load of shit that he uses it as an excuse, you know, per se, but if that guy really don't like Ted because he's on the board of directors of the NRA, that's just straight fucking stupid, you know. And, you know, I'm all about peace. I am anti-war, you know, but the thing is, you know, the Constitution was written to have the right to bear arms. Now, I know all about gun control, you know. Just here in Portland a few years ago, some nut went into the Clackamas Town Center and shot up the whole place, you know. And when I'm from Eugene, Oregon, you know. I actually grew up in Reno, but I'm from Eugene. And they had some kid at Thurston High School. Same thing in Springfield, you know. Some kids shot up a bunch of shit, you know. Even in Reno, when I was there, they had some guy trying to take out a judge, you know, sniper style. You know, shit like that goes on. And it sucks. But at the same time, shit goes down. You know, you can't really argue with any of that stuff. And, you know, I think as far as music is concerned, what a stupid reason to not let somebody in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, I mean, not everyone agrees with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, take Eddie Trunk, for instance, you know. And I'm on his soapbox. As far as I'm concerned, I feel the same way about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I love the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm glad there is one. But at the same time, you know, there are so many people out there that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that should be, and they straight ignore them. It's just like a slap in the face. Journey should have been in so long ago. Alice Cooper should have been in so long ago. Like all these people, Rush, you know, the list is endless, you know, of people that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame but aren't, you know. And I agree also with how certain musicians take it, you know. Jerry Garcia didn't go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, he just didn't believe in that institution. He said a famous quote with Groucho Marx said, "Any club that wants me, I don't want to be any part of," you know. And I agree with that. I agree with Axl Rose, you know. I mean, me, myself, I don't agree with that. Okay, let me reiterate. I don't necessarily agree. I think if you're being honored, you should have the balls to show up. But I respect them for not showing up. You know what I mean? Because they have their views and they feel very strongly about it. You know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was just trying to get a Guns N' Roses reunion. And that's stupid. You know, they had their personal issues. And, you know, and I think that's what really stuck in Axl's craw was the fact that they're like, you're just trying to get us together, you know? And the same thing with like Van Halen, you know, why half of Van Halen didn't show up, you know, because, you know, they got what's the word I'm looking for? You know, like they got different agendas sometimes, and their agendas are misplaced in my eyes. They want to get reunions all the time, like this thing with Kiss. I think any person that put a studio record with Kiss, even after the Core 4, you know, disbanded, you know, you got people like Mark St. John, you got people like Bruce Kulick, you got Vinnie Vincent. were just as much as part of KISS as Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, you know, and they should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as far as I'm concerned, especially Bruce Kulick. I mean, Bruce Kulick played with them for nearing 20 years, you know. Eric Carr, I mean, come on, he died while in KISS, and he was the longest standing drummer outside of Eric Singer, who's now the longest standing drummer. I mean, you know, he was probably with KISS Eric Carr was with KISS for 12 or 13 years, probably 11 or 12 years at least. You know, if he died in 91, I think, he joined the band in like 79, I think. I mean, yeah, that's at least 12 years, you know. And, you know, I mean, and they can't use that, because I've been also hearing, you know, oh, well, we only take the original people. Well, that's a load of shit, because when the Grateful Dead got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Vince Welnick was there. He was not an original member of the Grateful Dead, you know, and that's the other thing. There's other people. Okay, look at Van Halen. Sammy Hagar, not an original member of the Grateful Dead. Or Van Halen sorry about that, but Van Halen, you know? And, you know, to be quite honest, neither was Michael Anthony. And those are the only two people that showed up to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know? And both of them are not Michael Anthony should very well be considered an original member, because he was on everything they recorded. I mean, they had an original bass player to begin with. But, you know, still, you know, that guy pretty much did a year with him and did nothing. You know, it was Michael Anthony that came in. So I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that moniker. I'm just talking technical-wise. You know, and the same thing, okay, the same thing with Journey. Steve Perry technically wasn't the original singer, you know. I mean, that... John Fleischman or whatever his name was. And really not even that. Greg Raleigh is the original singer, you know. So there's so many stupid things that they say, oh, this, and that. That's bullshit, you know. If you're in one of the greatest rock and roll bands and you're on their hits, whether you're an original member or not, you should be honored with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know. And I keep thinking about this Ted Nugent thing, and I really respect him for, you know, saying that even though, you know, he's got his issues with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that he would be humble enough to show up, because that says a lot about a person, you know. And, you know, like I said, I don't agree with a lot of his stupid shit. But, you know, I happen to be not an avid hunter, but my dad is an avid hunter. My sister is an avid hunter. You know, my stepmom. And I come from, you know, a lot of hunting background, you know. I've never been that big into it, but I'm fine with it. I eat meat. You know, I'm not a vegan. You know, I don't... There's a lot of issues when it comes to stuff like that, you know. But if someone is a hunter or a part of the NRA, that should not make it so they can't get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, and I just think, you know, like I said, I don't agree with a lot of his politics. You know, I think Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are probably the two greatest presidents we ever had. You know, they were real people. They smoked weed, you know. George W. Bush, I don't even hate as much as I used to. I mean, I used to really hate George W. Bush, but the problem wasn't him. The problem was his dad and Cheney running the FBI. Those are the fucking two assholes that know if aliens landed on this planet. Those are the ones that are hiding all this bullshit. You know, they were the heads of the FBI and the CIA and all that stuff back when Nixon was running shit. You know? And to be quite honest, I thought it was sickening that, you know, just because Ted Nugent's a Republican, you know, that he voted for, you know, this jackass we got now, you know, Trump, you know. And I used to really like Trump. But he went from being a liberal Democrat to being this fucking right wing, you know. And I just think I'm really scared now. This, for the first time in my life, I am really scared that our president's going to end up causing World War III. You know, this whole thing with Kim Jong-un and all that stuff, I think is really scary, you know. But I digress. Back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, I think, you know, there should be a lot, and thing I like about it now is, you know, Eddie Trunk is on the voting thing, you know, there's newer people on the voting thing, so maybe people will start voting differently, you know, because I think for sure, especially with heavy metal, that, you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't. Here's what I think. I love Guns N' Roses, but to think that Guns N' Roses deserve to be there, okay, and I say the same thing with Nirvana or Pearl Jam or any of these people, to be on there before Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, you know, like people that literally, I mean, it took how long for Deep Purple to go in, and they finally induct him a year or two after John Lord dies. To me, that's the biggest slap in the face ever, because Deep Purple should have been in there in the mid-90s, as far as I'm concerned, you know. And, you know, so when I do stuff like this, podcasts like this, you know, I'm going to vent my feelings. You know, I have a lot of respect for people, you know, that to me, you know, even if I don't, you know, they're kind of mentors to me, even if I don't know them personally, you know, people I look up to, you know. And, you know, my big thing is wrestling and music, you know, and the legalization of marijuana, you know. And that's why this podcast is called, you know, Rock and Wrestling Local 420, you know, because I'm going to take on issues that, to me, need talking about. I love pro wrestling, so I'm going to talk a lot about pro wrestling, you know. I think that, you know, a lot of the product today sucks. I'm coming from, you know, a fan perspective. I'm no professional. I mean, I have worked in the indie scene a little bit, you know. I've worked in the music scene my entire life since I was a teenager, roadieing for bands, booking gigs, putting festivals together, you know. You know, I'm a huge part of more into music stuff than I am into wrestling. But, you know, those are my passions, you know, and I agree with a lot of the people out there that today's product of wrestling is just, you know, pure shit. You know, I got to give credit where credit is due. So many people talk about the Attitude Era. And, you know, so many people have heat with Vince Russo. You know, I could give two shits. You know, I love Jim Cornette. I actually agree with most of what Jim Cornette says when he talks about politics. That's what's funny about the shit. I don't agree with a lot of what Vince Russo says about God and about, not that I don't necessarily believe in God. I just believe in personal spirituality. You know, and Vince Russo says a lot of stupid shit that I don't agree with, but he is probably, to me, the most real and true transparent guy that looks at it from a fan perspective. And not only that, he is a professional. He did bring the highest ratings to Raw and stuff like that. I mean, when you talk about highest ratings, you're never going to beat Eric Bischoff in WCW. And I'm way more of a WCW fan than I ever was WWE. The thing is you can't deny what Vince Russo did. The facts, the numbers are there. He's right when he says that. The facts and the numbers are there. And to me, I love Vince Russo simply because I'm an emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I cry. I go off on people, you know. My mouth is my biggest problem. I get in more fights over stupid shit that I say. I'm kind of like Ted Nugent, you know. Say a lot of stupid shit that people don't agree with. But that's one of the reasons why I respect Ted Nugent, like I said, you know. And I respect anyone that wears their hearts on their sleeve. You know, I have, you know, I want to bring back the drama, the soap opera to wrestling, you know, and that's what I love about wrestling. You know, kayfabe is over. You know, it's done. You know, I believe in protecting the business. You know, I understand where a lot of Jim Cornette came from. You know, to me, the so-called Mount Rushmore or my top 5, you know, of creative type things, you know, of wrestling, you have to put Vince McMahon in there. You have to put Vince Russo in there. You have to put Eric Bischoff in there. You have to put Jim Cornette in there. You know, Dusty Rhodes was another one, you know. And who can, Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously, you know, that guy. All of those people, to me, are fucking geniuses. I mean, even if they don't get along with themselves, you know, that's irrelevant to me. They all made awesome TV. I wasn't a huge fan of wrestling in the 80s. When I was little, Oregon had the independent wrestling. So it was really awesome, you know. When I was younger, I got to see, you know, Buddy Rose, Roddy Piper, the Grappler, Len Denton, who is a friend of mine and I love. To me, he is a mentor to me because he's one of the few people in wrestling that really took me under their wing. People like him, Matt Stryker, you know, a lot of good people in the wrestling business that I have to pay a lot of homage to, you know. If it weren't for Len Denton, I wouldn't have met Jake the Snake Roberts. And Jake, literally, within 10 minutes of meeting the guy, you know, I had went through hepatitis treatment, and I had to go through interferon treatment. And I gained a lot of weight, and I started doing DDP yoga. And that I dropped 40 pounds just by doing DDP yoga. Now, granted, I gained it back because I had other health issues. I still do DDP yoga. And that's the other thing. I want to plug DDP yoga more than anything. That thing saved my life. Diamond Dallas Page, to me, is a godsend. He is a saint. I think that Diamond Dallas Page should be given sainthood because that guy cares more about other people than himself. Not that he doesn't care about himself, but he cares. And that's the thing. So I'm talking to Jake the Snake Roberts, and he's like, you know, and without even really anything, he calls Diamond Dallas Page. And he's like, yeah, hey, Dally, you know, this is Jake or what have you. You know, I'm not speaking, you know, verbatim or anything. I'm paraphrasing. But he's like, hey, this kid's got a story, yada, yada, yada. What's your name, kid? Chris? Yeah, his name's Chris. What's your phone number? 503, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, give him a call, 503, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, whatever, cool, you know? And, you know, and that was at 9 a.m., you know? And by 9:20, I get a fucking phone call from Diamond Dallas Page saying, yeah, Jake just left me a message and says you got a story. And I'm like, I told him, you know? And I'm just like, you know, hey, yeah, this is what I've been doing, you know. I shot a couple of YouTube videos, you know, and, I shoot a lot of YouTube videos, but I'm talking DDP yoga. And, you know, I post on my Facebook, you know, just got done doing my DDP yoga and everything. And, you know, over the years, this guy still sends me texts, say, hey, how you doing, Cab? Because my initials are, you know, my name's Christopher Anthony Buckby. So he calls me Cab. You know, I still have never met the fucking guy. But he posts on my Facebook, you know, hey, hope you're doing it. Keep it together, brother. And for him to go out of his way to just call people that he don't know, you know, and I hope to one day meet Diamond Dallas Page and thank him. I've thanked him. I've texted him, thanks. Hey, you know, I've, you know, talked to the guy on the phone, so that's kind of cool, you know. But it's little stuff like that that make me care and make me passionate about what I do. One of the reasons I'm passionate about music and podcasting now is Eddie Trump. and there's a lot of stuff that Eddie Trunk says that I don't agree with too. Only because I grew up different, like Rainbow, for instance. I love Rainbow, but he is a big Joe Lynn Turner fan, and I'm fine with Joe Lynn Turner. I love Street of Dreams, great stuff. More commercial, but I don't see, and he's right. That's the thing, is he's right, because he's more in tune with music than I am as far as technical stuff. But, the thing is like, all the songs that I know are all really Dio songs. That's what I heard on classic rock. I heard Man on the Silver Mountain, 16th Century Greensleeves, what's that one? Oh, God. Because there's We Rock, there's, all these rock songs that Dio does. I can't really tell if they're Dio songs or... But long live rock and roll, that's the stuff I heard on KOZZ when I was growing up, and that's, what I knew, I knew Since You've Been Gone, I knew Street of Dreams, but I didn't necessarily know that was Rainbow. So when I see Rainbow, I associate it with Dio, and to me, that's, and Eddie Trunk is all, they didn't get the success, and I don't know if I agree with that, because that's all you really hear on classic rock stations is Man on the Silver Mountain, and so it's stuff like that really got to me, and to actually go back to wrestling, like I was saying, when I was younger, we had independent wrestling in Oregon. Okay, well, when I moved to Reno, there's no independent scene there. All I had was WCW and WWF at the time, which in the 80s I just wasn't into. I was a kid, so yeah, I was into the cartoony stuff. I watched the Hulk Hogan cartoon that he had, But the thing is, I just really didn't get that into it until the early 90s, when all the stars started going to WCW, and then I started watching WCW. And then the NWO came, and I was like, oh my God, now it's more like a soap opera, because I grew up since I was a kid. My mom watched General Hospital. My aunt watched All My Children. And I would literally sneak home. I would do like 4 periods of high school, and I literally would just leave. And at noon, All My Children came on, so I would go to my aunt's house at like 16 years old, and we would sit there and do bong loads and smoke joints and watch All My Children, And that's just what I did. And so, I just started watching stuff like that from a teenager. And so, that's when I really got into it, was the whole Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars. I would flip back between Nitro and Raw, and I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome, And that's what I loved. I was like, wow, like wrestling's cool, And now that's cool because in Reno, there is an independent wrestling scene in Reno now. So I really dig it. And, I love being a part of it. But, there was no real independent wrestling scene in Reno. The only independent wrestling I got is when I was little and lived in Portland. Or not Portland, but I lived in Eugene. And I didn't move to Portland until like 16 years ago, but still, I digress. There's been an independent Oregon scene. That's what I love about it. I didn't have to rely on the WWF or WCW. I could go see a live show as a little kid and be enthralled and loved it, And when I went to see house shows in Reno at Lawler Event Center, they just weren't as good to me as the live or the tape stuff, as far as TV. If it wasn't on TV in a huge arena, it didn't really make me pop. Smaller venues and more personal things made me pop for independent wrestling, So I'm on the fence about a bunch of stuff when it comes to wrestling, But nonetheless, wrestling has been a huge part of my life. I love it, I think there are a lot of geniuses in wrestling. I'm a huge Eddie Guerrero fan. Shawn Michaels, to me, is probably the greatest rock and roll pop star wrestler that he is truly the showstopper. And in every sense of the word, my favorite wrestlers are always going to be heels. Like I said, Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels, even when they're baby faces, but still more heel, Macho Man was always, oh yeah, the madness. I loved it. I love the madness. I was never a huge Hulk Hogan fan until he turned heel, and he was a heel when he was on the Independents. Yeah. Terry Bollea and all that. Before he got famous, he was a heel. But, ever since Hulkamania, yeah, brother, eat your vitamins and all that stuff. That was just, I wasn't into the babyface stuff. I was always into the heel stuff. And, Len Denton, like I said, to me is probably the greatest heel in wrestling, And he helped train people that I love, like Raven. I'm a huge Raven fan. I loved The Flock when I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, in the mid 90s. There's a lot of stuff I liked. And, going back to the Monday Night Wars, if it weren't for Eric Bischoff and probably Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, I probably wouldn't have got back into wrestling because I thought it was stupid, It wasn't what I liked until it really turned into a TV show. Because like I said earlier, kayfabe is gone. I'm all for old schoolers protecting the business, but it's over. There's no sense in it. I do like heels that still act like heels, that are assholes to people, even though that's probably not really them. But, it's give or take sometimes. Some wrestlers play heels and then you go and sign their autographs under the nicest guys. Take Matt Stryker, for instance. I hated Matt Stryker for 10 fucking years, and it wasn't until I met the guy that I was just like, you are the nicest fucking guy I've ever met. How can you be such a prick? And he just laughed and he's like, well, it's part of the gig. And today, I consider Matt Stryker one of my truly good, almost best friends. The guy, when I was sick, he would text me and say, hey, how you doing? You feeling okay? We're both into the Grateful Dead. We're both into Rush and rock and roll. He plays drums, I dig that, We've hung out, and I love, that was my dog flapping his ears. But it's meeting people and seeing what they're really like, to me, is what I love about people. And that's one of the things that, like Ted Nugent, I'd love to meet Ted Nugent. I'd love to interview Ted Nugent, he says a lot of stupid shit that I don't like, and I think he's a prick sometimes. But I still respect the guy. I think he's one of the most badass guitar players on the planet. He don't lie about shit, he don't lie, He has his views on, drug addiction and stuff like that, and I agree with a lot of that stuff. But I also feel, I grew up, the Dead, Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters, Zane Kesey's one of my best friends, I think he's awesome. Simon Babs, son of Ken Babs. Another one of my best friends. I grew up around these people. These people are my friends. I am not necessarily pro drugs. I am for drug education. I think kids need to be instructed that drugs are not good or bad. They're just drugs. It's the excess and the abuse of drugs that is the problem. And that isn't the drug problem. That's a people problem. That's society issues, And if people have problems with drugs, that's fine. People have problems with drugs. But that doesn't necessarily make it the drug's fault. I guess unless you're really talking about heroin or something or meth, because to me, those drugs are just, God, evil. And that's just, like I said, an opinion. I know that contradicts what I just said, but still, they're kind of the scourge of the earth now. There's no real reason to do heroin, And you know what, though? here's the other thing about that. People say, oh, fuck drugs. Oh, you know what? All your best fucking rock music written on fucking drugs. So if you're so anti-drug, you go and you burn every fucking rock and roll album you ever bought, because the greatest music in the world was written on drugs, whether it be cocaine, heroin, LSD, or whatever. And so, hey, people need to explore their own minds, and I'm for that. I am all for exploring your own mind. I agree with Timothy Leary. I agree with question authority. I don't say no to authority. I say question authority and then decide for yourself if you think it's right or wrong. That's the beauty of what, the thing is, whether God's real or not, you look at it from a point of view as we were given free will, and that's basically what we're gifted with. We can choose to believe or not to believe in God or whatever, the spaghetti monster, Cthulhu, Zeus, Allah, Jehovah, whatever you want to call it, aliens, and I just think it's all different perceptions of stuff, how people look at things. The Ten Commandments are pretty much universal. Almost every religion uses the same basic laws, and people need to express themselves when it comes to stuff like that, And so with these podcasts that I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff, I'm going to be introducing some music, You will hear different things. I'll play 3 or 4 songs from the Grateful Dead or from Phish or Widespread, the Allman Brothers, etc. A little jam band era, 20 minutes or so. And then I'll put in a new something or other. Like I'm going to do a George Carlin rant every episode. 5 or 10 minutes of George Carlin ranting about something, because to me, George Carlin is the greatest of all comedians. And I bow to him. I think he was a genius. He was a wordsmith, and he really made you think about stuff. And, and I'm going to be talking, interviewing different people. I'm going to be interviewing musicians. I'm going to be interviewing wrestlers. I'm going to be interviewing people from political agendas with, for the legalization of pot and stuff like that, I'm a big advocate of medical marijuana, I smoke medical marijuana, and hey, I love it. I've been smoking since I was a teenager, and I'm not saying every teenager should smoke pot, but, kids are going to experiment with stuff, and that's how you become an adult. You experiment with things, and that's how you grow up and learn right from wrong, is making mistakes, and people should be allowed to make mistakes. All this stuff with the anti-drug and anti-pot stuff, dude, all that stuff that Anslinger did to defame pot was just ignorant, stupid shit. And it's when you take a look at society in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, America were just sheep, They didn't know. Everything is whatever the president says, that's what, Don't take politicians at their face value, because they're a bunch of crooks, And which is what we need sometimes. We need a bunch of crooks. I just think that we need professional crooks. I think that we need people that know what they're doing. Hence why I voted for Hillary. I don't trust Hillary as far as I can throw her, but would we be in this situation right now if Hillary had won, or let alone Bernie, who in my eyes should have won? I wasn't even for Bernie when he first started. I was for Hillary all the way, because the same thing I did with Obama. I took politics aside and I said, I am voting for a black guy for president, an African American. Why? Because he's black. And some people may take that and flame me for it. But I wanted society to change. I'm so glad that nobody took a shot at him. Because if you think about it, back in the 80s when Jesse Jackson, was running, Eddie Murphy did this thing where he met Jesse Jackson in the gym. And Jesse Jackson was working out, doing all this stuff. And he's like, why are you working out? And he goes, dude, I got to stay in shape. If I'm going to be the first black president, I got to be dodging bullets and hey, running around, and that's literally what probably was true. And the fact that nobody took a shot at Obama, it just shows me that people are waking up and accepting people, accepting, black, white, yellow, gay, straight, transgender, God, the devil, religious stuff, whatever, and that's why I voted for Hillary. I want a female president. I want society to change, and I don't think it's changing with Trump. I think it's getting worse. I think he is a fucking buffoon, and he's a reality show guy, and he is not a professional crook. He is a professional crook when it comes to real estate. I'll give him that. Every dime he's ever made, he probably deserves, even if his daddy did hand it to him. But the thing is when it comes to politics, we want a politician. We want somebody that is a political crook. Someone to keep us happy and pacified and just, hey, and we don't need some guy that is blatantly talking shit to some other country that really wants to bomb us and make them bomb us, and that's what I think Trump is doing. I think Trump is such, I'm going to go Jim Cornette and call him a Cheeto head twat waffle, because that's what I think it is. I think he is a Cheeto head twat waffle, and he deserves that moniker. And, I just think, I'm hoping that he gets impeached, because I don't like Pence. Pray the gay away, all that stuff is fucking stupid. But Pence is at least a politician, and at least he can probably run this country better than Trump. And the beauty is, if Pence becomes president, he's not going to be reelected. Nobody's going to reelect that guy. So I am all for President Pence. I say get Donald Trump out of there. Send him back. Here's something I want to say to Donald Trump. You're fired. And that's it. God, that kind of sounds like Vince McMahon. Even though he's friends with Trump, you're fired. That's what I say to Trump. And, I don't wish any ill will on the guy. I just don't think he's a good president, and he should really get out of office. I think he's going to get us bombed. That's just my opinion. And now I'm going to change the subject and go back to podcasting stuff. I'm going to basically be, looking up, music news and wrestling news and having an intro of basically news. I'm going to have co-hosts every so often. I'm going to model my podcast. To me, there's a lot of different podcasts out there. There's podcasts like Tony Schiavone's got with Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard's got, where they just look at old school, Monday Nitros and Raws and stuff and talk about it. Okay, that's fine. There's like Eddie Trunk, has, guests every so often. He just interviews them and stuff like that. I want to keep mine more variety and more entertainment based. To me, I want to model mine like after Conan's Keeping It 100. I think he's got a real good idea and I'm all for, 90 minutes or so, like some of them are 3 hours long. And if, they say, oh, well, that's not really going to get that high ratings, I call bullshit. Because like Eric Bischoff, I'm going to call bullshit, because Keeping It 100 is one of the highest rated podcasts around, I like, that's another famous wrestler of mine, Conan and Chris Jericho. I idolize Chris Jericho. I'm a huge Fozzy fan. You know, I'm probably going to be playing Fozzy on this podcast every so often too, because, you know, I'm going to be playing music. You know, in my heavy metal segment, I'll probably play some Fozzy. So there you go. But, you know, I like, once in a while, I like Storm and Cyrus's Killing the Town. Not too much, because I'm just not a huge Cyrus fan. And no disrespect to you, Cyrus. You're awesome. But I mean, I do love you and Disco going back and forth. I got to admit that. And you and KG going back and forth. That's a good thing. I think that's funny. But, you know, and I'm a huge fan of Disco Inferno, Glenn Gilberti. I've always loved Disco Inferno. I think he's just amazing. But Conan, you know, he's rowdy because he's bowdy and all that. Viva la Raza, NWO, you know, even before that stuff, when he was before, you know, all that NWO stuff, I thought, you know, hey, you know, because like I said, I was a WCW guy, you know, so I'm going to be all about stuff like that. You know, there's podcasts like Vince Russo's podcast. I love Vince Russo's podcast. I love Jim Cornette's podcast, Eric Bischoff's podcast, you know. They all do. I'm always going to put them over because this is stuff that I listen to. You know, MLW Radio, I think, Court Bauer, I love that whole thing. You know, J.J. Dillon's got a podcast now that's really entertaining. I dig that. I used to love Woo Nation, but, you know, Ric Flair doesn't want to do it anymore. But I think Conrad Thompson is awesome because he is bringing Tony Schiavone out of the woodwork. He's bringing Bruce Pritchard out of the woodwork. And Tony Schiavone and Bruce Pritchard, to me, are also two wrestling geniuses that I grew up with. Especially Bruce Pritchard. I love you, brother, love. Bruce Pritchard, you're a fucking genius. You know, and, you know, so there are a lot of podcasts I like. You know, one I've been listening to a lot is you know who's got a new podcast that I'm enjoying is Lillian Garcia. I've always loved Lillian Garcia. What guy doesn't love Lillian Garcia? But, you know, that's just, you know, hey, you know, and I put over, let's see, what other stuff can I put over that I'm really enjoying? Let's see, Talk is Jericho is one. Oh, Steve Austin's podcast. I love both of Steve Austin's podcasts, especially Unleashed. I love Unleashed because he, you know, like he says, spew the bullshit from his brain, you know, and I dig that. I really dig that he talks from the heart, you know, he really says stuff that's on his mind. And, you know, I dig stuff like that. I dig honest people. You know, one of the ones I really enjoy now is The Raven Effect. I think The Raven Effect is really good. I think Scott Levy is a genius. He, to me, is one of the greatest minds in wrestling as well. That guy is so creative, even back when he was Scotty the Body in Portland Wrestling, which I remember, you know, a lot of people, they have a lot of ties to Portland, here in Portland. And I love Portland wrestling. I love it here. I am actually moving back to Reno. But, you know, for the time being, I'm still here in Portland, and I still love it, you know. It's been 110 degrees here for a week straight, a week and a half straight, so that sucked because, you know, I can't hardly drive around without my air conditioning doesn't work, so that kind of sucks. But, you know, but yeah, I really enjoy Raven's podcast, and who else can I talk about? who, you know, some of Steve Austin's podcast has been really good. Some of his family-friendly ones, like the other day he had his nephew on. And that's the other thing, you know, I dig people that bring, you know, personal family and personal, you know, where it's not just stars, you know, and that's cool because it's not always going to be. Sometimes it may be me just talking shit like right now, you know. You know, there's a lot of stuff. I like the two-man power trip of wrestling. Those guys, I think, are really good. I really love listening to them. If you want to hear just real good, straight wrestling podcasts, I believe the guy's name is John and Chad. They're really good. I really enjoy listening to them. They've, you know, had so many people on. You know one I really like is Under the Scales with Tom Marshall, Fish's lyricist. He's basically like the Robert Hunter and John Barlow of the Grateful Dead for Fish. He's their main lyricist guy. And, you know, Under the Scales has been really enjoyable lately. Sam Roberts. That's another one that I really enjoy. And the reason I love Sam Roberts is because he straight keeps it real. He's a fan, and, you know, he doesn't, you know, say, hey, I'm some, you know, like, kind of like, you know, Wade Keller and Meltzer, Dave Meltzer do. You know, they're basically, you know, journalists, but, you know, they've been around for 30 years and stuff, but, you know, Sam Roberts keeps it as a professional, or not a professional, but as a fan perspective, and he speaks like a fan, you know. And I kind of think Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller, and they're great. You know, I have nothing bad to say about them, but I tend to think that they dissect it too much because they look at it like old school, like wrestling's still real. Well, you know, wrestling is real. It's real entertainment. That's the thing people need to understand. I hate it when people say wrestling's fake. Is Shakespeare fake? You know, no. You know, it's whatever it is, you know. People get hurt. People lose their lives, you know. Owen Hart died wrestling. Was that fake? No, it was fucking real. A man lost his life for trying to entertain people. And to say that shit is fake, to me, is the biggest fucking insult in the world. It is fake fighting. It is scripted. You know, it is a lot of those things. But it's not fake. You know, it's entertainment. It's what it is, you know. And, you know, I just think people need to realize what it is. It's entertainment for entertainment's sake. And when you get too mixed up in it and start thinking it's real now, you know, not back then. You know, if you thought it was real in the 80s and the 70s, that was still cool because there was kayfabe. You know, but now that kayfabe's dead, pretty much people know that wrestling is not real. You know, as far as the storylines go, you know, it is a job, you know, and people do what they love. Like I've always said, if you're doing something that you don't love and you hate, and it is like a job, then you're in the wrong business. Everyone should be doing things they love, you know, and that's the thing, you know. And I think a lot of people out there nitpick a lot of shit, you know, they dissect stuff too much. And when, you know, it just needs to be looked at from an entertainment point of view, you know. Some people take music too much, and, you know, you look at Charles Manson and the White Album, you know. I mean, look at those two idiots in Reno 30 years ago that took Judas Priest, you know. It's backwards messages. I grew up in Reno. I was there for the Judas Priest drugs. So these idiots, you know, and God, you know, I'm not saying anything bad. Their families they lost, kids they love. But in the 80s, Reno was full of a bunch of fucking Bible thumpers, and it was very depressing. And that's what these people were, in my eyes. You know, I don't want to talk shit about their family, but to say that Judas Priest put backwards messages in their music telling people to kill themselves, to me is the most ignorant, stupid bullshit I have ever heard. And I think it's just sickening. You know, these two idiots got stoned and decided to blow their heads off. You know, that sucks, you know, but it happened. And then the one kid lived. I mean, if you ever watch Dream Deceivers, really killer documentary, it shows the kid being interviewed and his face is looks like his face imploded, you know, like a fucking tortellini. And, you know, and he wrote this letter to the other guy's mom, because the other guy died instantly. And this was at a park in Sparks at the merry-go-round. And the other guy, before he died, he wrote this letter saying that the music of Judas Priest mesmerized them to think that the answer to life was death, which to me is the stupidest, most ignorant shit I've ever heard. Because if they had put all these, you know, do-its and all that stuff, like Rob Halford said on the stand, do what? Go to school? Get an education? You know, do what, really? Why would they say kill yourself? That is the stupidest, most ignorant thing in the world, because you're basically telling your audience to kill yourself. Your audience is going to get smaller if your audience starts killing themselves. So logic, it's the most illogical thing to try and make your audience kill themselves. You know, they're just a fucking rock band, man. They're a heavy metal act. And the devil is a huge part of the music, you know. God is a huge part of the music, you know. I'm a huge fan of Merciful Fate and King Diamond. You know, I'm a huge fan of Stryper. I think Michael Sweet is a wonderful songwriter and gifted man. I don't necessarily agree with the whole God thing myself. The way I've always lived by two philosophies. And one is, you know, different than the other. And they're two contradictory. This is why I live by them, because they're completely contradictory of themselves. I've always said, my God has a bigger dick than your God. Just to be an asshole. And then I've always said, well, hey, my God has a big shine. You know what I mean? To be kind of, you know. So no matter how you look at it, it's all stupid. You know, everyone, if you believe in God, then that's your right to believe in God. Whether God is the spaghetti monster, is Zeus, is Jehovah, Allah, etc., Buddha, whatever you want to call it. You know, and then that's your belief. And everyone has the right to believe what they believe. But when you start preaching your beliefs on other people and making them feel bad for the way they believe, like God hates fags, that, to me, is about the most disrespectful and sexist shit I have ever heard. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, God is supposed to love everyone. You know, God is the leading cause of death, if you think about it. God is the leading cause of all the bloodiest, most brutal wars, if you think about it. It's always over God and religion. You know, and I just, you know, I think if you outlawed religion, within 100 years, we probably wouldn't have wars, you know. So I'm going to sign off right now. And, you know, there's a lot of other stuff coming. I hope you enjoy my podcasts. And, you know, keep listening to awesome music. At some point, you know, let me know what you think. And, you know, I'm fine with taking criticism as long as it's not bashing and hateful. I hate hateful shit. But, you know, I'll be playing music. I'll be doing interviews. I'll be doing a lot of different stuff. Hope you enjoyed yourself. And stay tuned for some good music.
Hey, what's up?
This is Cosmic Chris, the Hippie Pip, aka HP Puff and Tough. Hope you enjoyed my rant. It was my first actual rant for my new upcoming podcast, episode 1. So, with that said, I also am going to include some music. So, I'm going to play a string of songs for you. I don't know, probably for a half hour, 35 minutes, I don't know. And since this is my first one, I'm just going to leave it at my hour-long rant and just play some music for you. And then I'll come back with an outro, and, we can take it from here now. And without any further ado, here's some music.
a northbound train. I wish I was a headlight on a northbound train. I'd shine my light through the cool Colorado rain.
I was sitting in my basement. I just rolled myself a taste of something green and gold and glorious to get me through the day. Then my friend yelled through the transom, grab your coat and get your hat, son. There's a nut down on the corner giving dollar bills away. But I laid around a bit and I had another hit, and I wrote myself a bomber. Then I thought about my mama. Then I fooled around, played around, jacked around a while. In the end, I got stoned and I missed it. I got stoned and I missed it. I got stoned and it rolled right by, rolled right on by. I got stoned and I missed it. I got stoned and I missed it. I got stoned, oh me, oh my. Now it took 7 months of virgin just to get that local virgin with a sweet face up to my place to fool around a bit. The next day she woke up rosy and she snuggled up so cozy. When she asked me how I liked it, Lord, it hurt me to admit. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and it rolled right by. Where'd it go? I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned. Oh me, oh my. making no excuses for the many things I uses just to sweeten my relationships and brighten up my day. But when my earthly race is over and I'm ready for the clover, and they ask me how my life has been, I guess I'll have to say I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and it rolled right by. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and I was stoned. Oh me, oh my.
You can't sing like that condition.
When I woke on Friday morning, I couldn't get the airplanes from my head. I held my baby a little closer, spent the day in bed, yeah. I laid there thinking about tomorrows, all the goods I need and all I have. Something's bound to make or break me back in Amsterdam. Will you bathe me in a chest of Spanish gold, or tear away the promise from the miner's only soul? Spin the wheel of fortune, risking everything I am, all or nothing back in Amsterdam. Oh no, back in Amsterdam. We're on the bus forever after, making music, past the hat around the blonde cafes. Every terrace ringing with the laughter the Yorking grinder made. Later Vondo Park on every Sunday, making music, singing off to sleep, my only plan. All around the rivers overflowing, back in Amsterdam. Will your forces for a fortune in my hand? Look around the corner, changing passion to demand. Spin the wheel of fortune, risking everything I am. Run the river back to Amsterdam. Whoa, no, back in Amsterdam. Well, there's life around the corner. Sometimes life just disappears, like romance in the married years. Well, I feel the bread and roses, a settled life would offer me. Take me where I long to be, back in Amsterdam. No, 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 in Amsterdam. Take me where I long to be. what you see is what I feel. I know together we will grow. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I found you.
After all that we've been through, I've been lost now without you. I'm nothing if not for you.
Hold you in my arms every minute of the day. The stormy seas now getting calm. There's only one thing left to say. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I found you. I found you.
After all that we've been through, I'd be lost now without you. I'm nothing if not for you.
I still express, yo, I don't smoke weed or cess.
Greedy earthlings. And welcome to the motherfucking wonderful, wonderful motherfucking world of getting high to the motherfucker. Oh me, I'm funk on your mind. AST motherfuckers, roach clip. And this here is my chemo sabe. Dumping shit on
dump that ashtray. Ruthless family, breathless, you can be. Smoke that's like a G, psychedelically insane and getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. As I step through the smoke, deep from a land broke niggas don't come to. Straight to Indonesia, chronic fever. Step off punk, we don't need ya. Blaze a blunt to the boogie, and come take a ride on a journey with a real G. Life is easily explained on a level. A smoking bud with the motherfucking devil. In my imagination, set these thoughts of what a fly creation. Indo smoke from the land of G's, letting them know they can't handle these niggas. Straight from the paradigm, I have come to put funk on your mind. Easy E, better known as Mr. Rich. Clips are past the bud, cause we're still getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Fucked up, yes, high as hell. Ring, ding, ding, do I hear some bells? Or am I just tripping? Thinking about that foe that I'm dipping. Front, back, side to side. On toners, that's how a niggas gotta ride. Dip to the dip, to the dip, to the back. Bumping Easy E on 8-track. So, blaze up another skunky, funky, dookie, doobie. So we could get loogied. Up some more, up we go. What's my name? Easy E. Yo, that motherfucking bud smoking, loking. When I'm high as a kite, causing ruckus, yeah. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Substance.
Mirror, motherfucking wanna.
Common slang names.
Pot, grass, dope, weed, homegrown, sesame, Maui, Wowie, tie sticks, joints, roaches, indica, concentrated resin called hash or hashish, but some niggas call it bud.
Active ingredient.
Tetrahydrocannabinols, THC.
Source.
Cannabis sativa.
Pharmacologic classification.
CNS depressant hallucinogen.
Medical use.
Experimental only, oh yeah, we still testing. And don't forget we still getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting down to the line. Getting high in the motherfucker. High in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. Getting high in the motherfucker. much.
Cardiac ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing pink paper stools. Is far away. The toilet has flushed, and cleanups are ghosts, and doctors will be extinct. Space is out of coming, they don't know what they've done. Signal just one senator, just a crawl. pleasure goes, and champions will be extinct. The race of God has come, then I know what they've done. Say there's just one, and it goes as a cry. At ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to stone, big pepper soup. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup. Wackadoo, wackadoo, wackadoo. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup. Party at ground zero, every move is starring you, and the world will turn to flowing big pepper soup.
It was the blackest night, there was no moon in sight. You know the stars ain't shining cause the sky's too tight. I heard the scary wind, I seen some ugly trees. There was a werewolf walking along the side of me. I'm green and I'm bad, you know I ain't no sissy. Got a big titty girlie by the name of Chrissy. Talking about her in my bike in the slide up the mountain of mystery. I noticed even the crickets were acting weird up here, and so I figured I might just drink a little beer. I said, give me some of that, what you're sucking on. But there was no reply, cause she was gone. Where's those titties I like so well? And my goddamn beer is what I started to yell. Then I heard this noise like a crunch twig. And up jumped the devil. He's about this big. He had a red suit on and a widow's peak and then a pointed tail and like a sulphurine. Yes, it was him, all right. I swear I knowed it was. He had some human flesh up underneath his claws. You know, it looked to me like it was kitty skin. I said, you son of a bitch, cause I was mad at him. Well, he just got out his floss and started cleaning his fangs. So I shot him with my shooter, said, bang, bang, bang. Then the sucker just laughed and said,
Put it away! You know I ate her all up! Now what you gonna say?
You ate my Chrissy?
Titties and all!
Well, what about the beer then, boy?
The can's this tall?
Even her boots?
Would I lie to you?
Shit, you must have been hungry.
Yes! This is true!
Don't they pay you good for the stuff that you do?
Well, you know, I can't complain when the checks come through.
Well, I want my Chrissy, and I want my beer, so you just barf it back up. Now, devil, do you hear?
Blow it out your ass, motorcycle man! I mean, I am the devil, do you understand? Just what will you give me for your titties and beer? I suppose you noticed this little contract here.
You're goddamn right, you son of a whore.
Don't call me that.
That's about the only reason I learned writing for. Give me that paper, bet your ass I will sign, because I need a beer and it's titty squeezing time.
Man, you can't fool me! You ain't that bad! I mean, you should have seen some of the souls that I've had. Why, there was Milhouse Nixon and Agnew too, and both of those suckers was worse than you.
Well, let's make a deal if you think that's true. I mean, you're the devil, so what you gonna do?
Wait a minute, a tinge of doubt crosses my mind when you say that you want to make a deal with me.
That's very, very true.
Wait, you ain't supposed to want to make a deal with me.
But I'm slightly different than your average customer, devil.
But most people don't want to make a deal with me.
Yeah, well, most
What's your
people are
story?
afraid of you. See, they don't know how stupid you are. I happen to know that you jack off to a picture of Punk Meadows when you get home.
Stupid.
You know, ever since that guy told you that he contained more fluid than Jeff Beck, you've been trying to outdo him. Well, look, I'm going to say one thing to you. This may not register right away, but let me say this. Leave your pickle alone for a couple of nights, you know what I mean? Now, come on. I'm only interested in a couple of things. Wait, is that a note for me? Is somebody passing me a note? What does this say? Frank, please do me a favor. I can't find a brother of mine. I could dig it if you could call him from stage. His name is Dirty Tom Nomads MC. Signed, thanks, Bear or Bean? I can't tell. Well, if he's out there, Dirty Tony De La Nomads MC, get in touch with Bean or Bear. And as I was saying, Devil, I'm an average sort of a person. You wouldn't believe it, but I'm very much like the people here in this audience tonight. I think we definitely have something in common.
Wait a minute, I thought you had funny things growing in your hair and all that other shit. I thought weird music, you know, I thought biker and everything. I mean, shit, you know, big titty chick that you just had out here with the camera.
Listen carefully to me, old devil.
Uh-huh.
I'm only interested in two things.
Yeah.
See if you can guess what they are.
I would think, let's see, maybe,
well, I'll give you two clues.
Let's see.
Let go of your pickle.
What?
Let go of your pickle.
I'm not holding my pickle.
Well, who's holding your pickle then?
I don't know. She's out in the audience. Hey, Dale, would you like to come up here and hold my pickle to satisfy this weird man out here on the stage?
You're probably wondering why we call it a pickle. I hate to squeal on you, Bozio. I mean, devil. But look, I'm only interested in two things.
Oh, wait a minute. All I have to say is, God help me, even though I have this fucking mask on.
Listen, if you think that mask looks bad, you ought to see his pickle. I'm only interested in two things, and that's titties and beer. You know what I mean?
What? Titties and beer?
Titties and beer, 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 titties and beer.
I don't know if you're the right guy.
Titties and beer.
No, don't sign it. Give me time to think. I mean, hold on a second, boy, because that's Magic King.
And then the devil let go of his pickle, and out come my girl. They heard the titties flop, flopping all around the world. She said,
I got me 3 beers and a fistful of downs, and I'm gonna get ripped, so fuck you clowns. Then she gave us the finger, it was rigid and stiff. That's when the devil, he farted, and she went right over the cliff. Whoa, tinsel time.
Well, the devil was mad, I took off to my pad. I swear I do declare, how did you get back there? I swear I do declare, how did you get back there? I swear I do declare, how did you get back there? I swear I do declare, how did you get back there? I swear I do declare, how did you get back there? All right. I mean, that's enough of the devil and his famous pickle. We're going to make another dramatic, if somewhat rickety segue into another song called Cruising for Burgers. Wait a minute.
Suicide Hotline, may I help you?
Yeah. Well, I'm about to fucking kill myself.
Listen, you don't want to do that, okay? You don't want to do that.
I'm gonna... There's so many fucking reasons why I don't even need to be here anymore. I'm gonna put a slug in my fucking head.
You don't want to do that. You want to be on Earth, okay?
Fuck that shit, man. I got a gun right now.
Put it away,
and I got it right under my chin, man. Fuck that.
Take it away from
I'm gonna fucking blow my head all over the ceiling.
No, you're not, okay?
Fuck this shit, man.
Hey, just talk to me, okay?
It ain't no point to me waking up. Everybody's time I'm taking up. I got nobody, it ain't a shoulder near. I can't stay here and it's colder there. I don't wanna look back cause it's gonna hurt. I slice my wrist and it's gonna squirt. For me, everybody holds a hate. I get backstabbed survived and everybody holds the stake. It's no roads to take, I'm in a circle drive, busting at myself and I'm trying to survive. I'll disappoint you and I will let you down, and I ain't got many homeboys coming around. You don't understand, so don't say you do. I swear I'll put a motherfucking slug in you. I'm the only one, the lonely one, at home alone loading a gun, thinking why not?
Why not? Why not, okay? Okay, you have feelings inside of your head, okay? I understand that. Feelings lead to depression. When you have depression, you have a lonely void inside of your heart, okay? And your heart means everything to the world, okay?
I got court coming up, I stole the truck. I got a bitch pregnant and I'm broke as fuck. I wanna get high, but I got piss test. I'm always first name on top of shit list. Get this, the witches made my chest. It's permanent nightly visiting nest. It ain't no clothes that I look good in. I'm the motherfucking big red train that couldn't. I got no family, I stole they shit. Restraining orders and I still won't quit. I hit rock bottom and then I fell in a hole, and then I fell through the floor of that hole some more. I've been missing for a year, nobody's looking. I got beat down and my shit took in. I look ahead and all I see is more of the same, or this self-inflicted bullet hole pouring my brain.
Okay. Now I understand that you're in pain, okay? I understand everything you're going through. I've been there myself, okay? Now, your pain is my pain, alright? And I feel your pain, and I want to be your friend. Just me and you, friend.
I dream about cutting heads off with a shovel. The dreams are getting serious, think I'm in trouble. I don't hold memory for more than an hour. I'm tired as fuck and I'm drained of power. I ain't halfway there and I'm all out of time. I'm like a crushed light bulb, all out of shine. I've been around the world and no place is home. I wanna see the other side when I face this chrome. I'm butt naked, I've been jacking off, getting drunk. It's my last hours alive, who gives a fuck, it don't matter. I'm doing this shit in the garage, trying to make it easier for them to clean my head splodge. This bitch I loved, I hope she finds me still up in a chair with my thoughts behind me. I'm about to do it. Can you hold for a second?
Wait a minute.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Where are you at?
Right down the street.
Well, who?
My girl Shannon. We were wondering if we can stop by.
Well, shit. Yeah. Come on by.
Really?
Yeah. Hey.
I know, bring some blunts, alright.
Uh-huh. Alright, bye.
So we pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Can I play with madness? Give me the sense to wonder if I'm free.
Hey, and we're back from the music break. Yeah, I went ahead and I decided to put up a jumbled playlist. I started out there with the Grateful Dead off the Without a Net album. That was China Cat Sunflower into I Know You Writer. Then I felt like a little something different too. Went for some Dr. Hook, and I got stoned and I missed it. Always a favorite. And then after that, I played a little bit of a Box Set, which is a San Francisco band. A couple friends of mine. One member, Jeff Pearson, was in Further with Bob Weir and Mickey and Billy and Jock Kadlicek. And the other member, Jim Brunberg, actually currently owns Mississippi Studios here in Portland, Oregon, and the Revolution Hall. Two really killer music venues. If you haven't been there, I suggest you go. And after that, I played Cosmic Freeway, I'm So Lucky, off their first album in 1991. They're from Reno and Tahoe. And then I decided to change it up and go for some just old school Eazy-E, Down to the Last Roach, off the 187 Killa album, Dre Day. That's always been a favorite of mine. Eazy was always an inspiration for me when I was in high school. NWA, I mean, yeah. And then next, another inspiration was Fishbone, Party at Ground Zero. Yes, always a party when it comes to Fishbone. Then we got into a little bit of Zappa with Titties and Beer. Yes, you gotta love Zappa. Titties and beer, and plus you gotta love titties and beer, you know, two great things, you know. And then a little ICP Suicide Hotline break. That's the ICP's always good for some laughs. I love ICP. Then I decided to go for some old school Maiden from the Seventh Son of the Seventh Son album, Can I Play with Madness? That album really, when I was in junior high school, that just took me. And I fell in love with Maiden. I was in love with Maiden before that, but that album really got to me. It was right after the Somewhere in Time album, and yeah. And then another album that really stood out in my eyes from the Among the Living album was Anthrax and Indians. Probably my all-time favorite Anthrax tune. And you know, what a great way to end something with some Anthrax. So that was my music playlist that I decided to get you with. And in future episodes, I'm going to be jumbling stuff up. It's, you know, this is just my first one. I wanted to get it out there and, you know, let people know who I am, what I'm about. My music playlist is always going to be different. I have a very wide selection. You know, if you're not into something, you can skip ahead a few minutes, you know, but basically I just like variety. Like you said, like you saw there, you know, I like different eclectic forms of music. And I got, you know, different and eclectic forms of talk radio and listen and podcast listening that I like, you know. And, you know, I just really hope you enjoy the podcast and hope you come back for episode 2. And we're going to drop probably every 2 weeks. And, you know, after we get a few episodes in the can and get more stuff edited and stuff, we're probably going to come at you every week. And then hopefully this takes off and I gain myself an audience. So, hope you had a good time. We'll see you here in a couple weeks. Bye.